You're the one who casts the spell that creates the who you are. I'm so stupid. I know I can't do that. And the brain goes yes, and the heart goes yes, and the gut goes yes, and you go, that's me. I'm stupid. Are you really?
Sometimes it feels like a gravitational pull.
Yes, yes.
It just pulls you back to that aura of negativity, of doubt.
Your net worth is your network, and don't ever forget it.
Say that one more time.
Hi, I'm Faisal Karmali. Welcome to Karmali Exchange. Business owners need to help each other out.
Keep on pushing to meet the needs of the customer will meet the needs of the business.
Welcome to Karmali Exchange. I'm Faisal Karmali. And let me tell you a bit of a story here. Let's go back to my father, okay? He came to this country, went through a rough time in business as everybody did in Alberta during the early 1980s. And that point in time changed his entire view on risk, on leadership, on entrepreneurship and management of his business. Went through some tough times. And when I was growing up, I noticed that he was living in somewhat of a world of regret. And that changed and formatted the way that I handled businesses. Now, I've been involved with many businesses, and I have succeeded at some, failed at some as well. And I always had in the back of my mind, I don't want to do what my father went through. And actually understanding this with a lot of help from a lot of professionals, I wanted to figure out and dig in for you that how is your DNA possibly hurting your business? And there's no one else I would rather talk about this than Judy Wilkins-Smith. Judy is a motivational speaker, author, internationally known. Welcome to the show, Judy. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Faisal. It's nice to be with you.
So you kind of heard my little quick story there. I have really at the back of my mind, Judy, really focused on not doing some of the things that he's done in his business, primarily being more conservative, risk adverse, not taking that extra chance to expand and grow. But I was having a great conversation with my producer, and Jeremy was telling me, you know what, Faisal, it could go far back to your great grandfathers. It could go that far back. And
it can go that far back. He's quite right.
And I don't know my grandparent or my great-grandparent because of the immigration coming to Canada and so forth.
Right.
I never got the opportunity to meet him. So I'm really curious, how does the DNA or your family history have anything to do with how you run a business?
So, you inherit your physical DNA. Great.
Yes.
You also inherit your emotional DNA. And your emotional DNA is your pattern of thoughts, feelings, actions, outcomes that you inherit. And it's a little bit like your physical DNA. You may not have known your great-great-great-grandfather, but you, Faisal, have inherited all of those bits and pieces that have come on through. The way you look, how tall you are, the color of your eyes, and it's the same with your emotional DNA. So you don't have to know them to inherit it. But what you do want to do is you want to make sure that if you've inherited that emotional DNA, you know what to do with it, because that emotional DNA creates an imprint, at least an imprint on your genetic sequencing, which affects the way that those genes will or won't, can or can't be expressed. So that goes to everything in your life, whether it's money, leadership, the way you're in business, the way you are with your kids, any of that stuff is going to be influenced by your emotional DNA.
So, Judy, you have the opportunity to work with the Fortune 500 executives out there. So these are big, big businesses. You've worked with many different leaders of businesses out there. How does one actually figure out what their emotional DNA is, and how do you guide them through? How can they maximize not only their personal life, but their professional life as well?
Yeah, so typically what will happen is I get a leader who comes to me and they say to me, you know what, I'm stuck with money or I'm stuck with leadership. And what I do is a really deep dive into, so talk to me. When did you first notice that? What was happening for you at the time? What did you tell yourself about that? What did you make it mean about you? What did you make it mean about others? So it's going into the thoughts, feelings, and actions. And what we notice is very often where you're stubborn, resistant, very sad, the elevated emotions, right? The ones that don't make sense. I will never. I'm always going to. Those are the ones you want to pay attention to, because that's where the emotional DNA sits. And what happens is it's come all the way down to you. It's echoed all the way down. And now it's saying to you, okay, So how do you want to change me? And that's actually why it comes to you. It's waiting for you, the next generation, to be able to go and change that with new thoughts, new feelings, new actions, but very conscious thoughts, feelings, and actions.
I talked to a bunch of CEOs in and around my city, and the concept of fight, flight, freeze, or even flop comes up a lot of times. And then we kind of discuss about inherited trauma. Do you believe that there's inherited trauma that crosses over into the business world from leaders?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And here's the deal. When I work with a leader, the first thing I do is a deep dive into their family history, if they have one, and then a deep dive into their career history. And what you'll find is the two cross over. Who you were at home becomes how you are as a leader, either in reaction to or in collusion with what's happening in the system. So yes, it crosses over. So there was a company I worked with, and the guy kept saying to me, I can't take a risk. I can't take a risk. This is not a good idea. I know we need to expand, but I can't take a risk. And what we found was we went back into his family and someone took a risk and it didn't pay off. And unfortunately at that time, and for many people, we think if it didn't work this time, I'm dead. I'm clearly not meant for that. That's not the truth, but that's what we often make it mean. So he then becomes this businessman, and this inherited trauma is sitting right there. And all of a sudden he's going, I can't. I don't know why I'm freezing, but I can't. And the freezing is anchored in that unresolved pattern. When we could look at that and click it back and send it back to the grandfather, in other words, hey, dude, this doesn't belong to me. This is yours. Well, then suddenly he could breathe. It wasn't, oh my goodness, I'm going to fail. I'm going to kill everybody around me. I'm responsible for everyone. Now all of a sudden he goes, oh, that was his, and I'm sitting with it, and it's warning me. Those are great warnings that I can pay attention to, but they don't get to govern me. Because guess what? We are now 100 years later. Conditions are not the same.
Right.
Opportunities are definitely a lot more. It's okay. And so it's reframing that and starting to turn the mind around. And all of a sudden he could say, oh, what do you mean there's good debt and bad debt? Yes, it's a thing. Yeah. And it's okay for you to take a risk because this is a calculated risk. Here's the upside. And he could swing into that piece. But you can go very, very quickly into the systemic trance, which was what I was describing.
Are there common traumas that get presented to you that you'd like to share? Maybe your top 3 that you've seen over your years of doing this with leaders that maybe we can learn from that or try to identify for ourselves?
Number 1, imposter syndrome. There's no such thing. I have a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of the top CEOs who go, somebody's going to find out. And it's not that they're imposters, they're actually pioneers. They may not have the answer, but they can go find the answer. So that's number 1. Number 2, money. Money is a huge trauma. Why? Because we were taught all the bad things about money. In fact, my 3rd book, by the way, is going to be about money. Because we're taught so many things about money. It's love or money. Love of money is the root of all evil. Money is terrible. And so we're secretly sabotaging ourselves, right? I'd love to be rich, but oh my goodness, those rich people, they're terrible.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the mindset, you're automatically setting yourself at odds with yourself. But a lot of those traumas come down through the system. Then, of course, success, just overall success. Who am I to be a CEO, CFO, COO, CIO, CTO, or any one of the C's you want? They all get there and go, And now sometimes what you'll find is you'll find a great-grandfather or a father who didn't acknowledge the son or the daughter. And so what do? It's, I'll show you. But what they never remember to do is once they get there is go back to the one who doubted them and say, thank you. Because of you, I got all the way there. So those are your top 3 that I typically see. And then I would actually add a 4th one in, and that is what people forget in business, and that's stakeholder management. We don't do enough about stakeholder management, and stakeholder traumas can breeze on through. So great-grandfather never built up his network solidly. He was a one-man band. Yeah. Well, yay. And when the one-man band collapsed, everybody else was a one-man band. And you're sitting there going, I know what to do with this. Don't be a one-man band. Build your stakeholder network. Build the people around you. Your net worth is your network, and don't ever forget it.
Say that one more time. That's one piece that I think people don't understand, especially when they go from business life to after business life, or when they go from one business to another. Say that line one more time, please, Judy.
Yeah, absolutely. Your net worth is your network. It's so important. If you don't build that, relationships are everything. I worked with somebody recently and they were saying to me, yeah, my whole business, my whole empire, if you will, is a result of my relationships. This person knows that if they need X, Y, or Z, they have people in X, Y, or Z places that they can reach out to. And it's going to happen. It is not just about being smart. It's not about meditating for 10 hours a day. It's not about floating on a lotus blossom. It's your relationships. And so part of my job always as an executive coach is teaching people about not the hard skills. Hard skills are easy. Soft skills. Your soft skills will take you all the way to the top. And they say to me, what do you mean? Kindness. Kindness will take you all the way to the top. And they go, how? If you look at someone like Bob Iger, I'm a Disney person, so
okay.
I'm all things Disney. Bob Iger started off at the bottom. He started off as a nothing. He ran around. He was a grip. He was an anything you wanted him to be person. But the one thing about Bob Iger is you could stop him pretty much in the street and he will be kind. Kindness gets you all the way to the top. Decency gets you all the way to the top. Yeah, so does being a jerk. The problem is, if you're that, you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be chewing tums and not doing well.
Yeah. So you've gone through a lot of coaching sessions with executives. You uncover one of their traumas, maybe one of the top 4 that you just mentioned. What's the next step? How does someone break down this trauma and actually move on from it?
So what we do is we look at, so where are you stuck? What's holding you back? Where do you go inside when you think about it? Okay.
Yep.
So talk to me. I want you to write down all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your actions. I want all of it. When we've looked at that, I want to know, when did that begin for you? What was happening in your life at the time? What did you make it mean about you? What did you make it mean about others? And is anyone else in your family similar? Do they have a similar pattern? If no, then you're the one who's beginning the pattern and you want to watch out because you're about to pass that stuff down to your kids or your community. What we then do is we have a look at what are the words, what are the phrases, because what people don't realize is that we are magnificent magicians. And whenever I say that, people go, huh? You're the one who casts the spell that creates the who you are. I'm so stupid. I know I can't do that. And the brain goes, yes. And the heart goes, yes. And the gut goes, yes. And you go, that's me. I'm stupid. Are you really? No, but you've cast the spell that says you are. And when the brain tells the body a story that the body believes, that's what the body becomes, and that's who you become.
Judy, I want to just jump in here because you kind of sparked something in my mind here. When people do that and they self-fulfilling prophecy of what they're thinking of really can transpire into the business world or as leaders or even in the family world. When you go through something like that, there's usually a catalyst that makes you feel that. There's usually an event or something that brings it in.
Yes.
What are the key events that you've experienced with these leaders that make them go and doubt themselves or have any other of this trauma that kicks in? Are there certain type of events? You mentioned expanding of a business.
Yes, but it could be anything. You have a teacher who tells you when you're 5 years old, sweetheart, don't ever write books. You're too stupid to write things. And that sits with you because you go, oh, they're bigger than me. They must be right. Therefore, I am too stupid to write books. Now you get into business and they say, Faisal, your work's amazing. We want you to write a book. And you go, no, I don't write books.
Yeah.
It's the little things. You want to watch where you're tripping yourself up. It could be anything. But what you hit on is accurate. There's always a precipitating event. And with a precipitating event, any big life event, any event, when you start to hear yourself making choices that stir emotions, pay attention. You're wiring your body to believe it's true. Pay attention.
So I'll tell you a story about me. When I was in high school, there was a course that was available that I was attending in the class. It was on marketing. So we learned how to actually retail market and how to get a business up and running from a marketing perspective, which I found very interesting, and thank my high school for actually offering that program. However, the teacher at the time was not happy with the class because of our conduct as a unit, and kept on saying, you're not going to make it as good marketers or business owners, so on and so forth. Fast forward 15 years later, things are going well for me. We're marketing quite well. We're doing quite well as a business. And I wanted to go back to the high school, stepped into the high school. He's no longer there. Couldn't find him. Didn't want to make it a big journey to go and, poke it in his face saying, look how great this is done. And there was a lot of foundation I learned from that course that made me interested in this. It took some more self-thought work to figure out that's where the issue came from. Was that teacher in that course that brought that little bit of I'll call it a slow victim blaming of myself, that I can't do it, but it took some work.
Absolutely.
How do people know where it comes from if they don't do the work? Because they might have the reaction, I'm not good at marketing. And then they'll come back and say, well, I'm just not good. But they're not really digging into where it came from and proving that it's not actually true. How do you dig into that core issue and where it came from so you can tackle it?
So first of all, you got to have the want. I often sit with people, unfortunately, who are sick and tired of being sick and tired of sick and tired. That's when they come to me. So that's when they start to dig in. But if people would just do that as a matter of course, go, oh, that felt not good. I just told myself I'm really not good at marketing. Wait a minute, where'd that come from? And go back as far as you can remember. You're likely to hit it. If it's all the way back to when I was a kid, your chances are it's a multi-generational one. It didn't come from you, but you've pulled it in. So what you want to do is go back to that. And even if you can't identify the exact piece, listen to what you're telling yourself. I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at marketing. Why? Because, and the more you tease the because, the more you're going to get to the bottom of it. The end result of that is that really true, or has that changed? Because what happens is this, you have that triggering event, you create the thoughts, feelings, and actions, which become phrases, which become pieces in your body, which then become the reality. And what you want to do with that is go say, hold on, can we interrupt that? Because that's not really the truth for me now. Okay, so stop. What is the truth for you now, or what do you want it to become? Because you're equally able to say, thank you, you served me then. I want something different now. Here are the thoughts, feelings, and actions that I want to consciously wire in. And when the little doubt comes up, you say, I actually give people an exercise. I go, goal. So you have a piece of paper that says goal and a piece of paper that says, here's the doubt. And I'll say to them, move between the doubt and the goal. And every time another piece comes up, a but comes up, write it down, go put it behind the start line, because that's where it belongs. And then keep moving towards the goal.
Give me an example, Judy, just so we can kind of understand. You've got two pieces of paper. You got a go.
Right.
The second piece of paper that you put before go is about?
Okay, so I want to go, and I'll give you a real life sort of thing. I want to go and teach at Disney World.
Sure.
That was one for me.
Yeah.
I want to go teach at Disney World. Oh my goodness, do you know how much that costs? Oh my goodness, who am I to go and think I can teach at Disney? Only smart, really smart people teach there. Oh my goodness, it's impossible. Nobody just does this. You don't just get up and go teach at Disney. All of the thoughts and then the feelings of, yeah, well, what if, they've just asked me for a hefty deposit if I do that? What if I lose that money? I mean, this is not good. I'm not a good steward of money. Yep, all of those I'm writing and putting back behind the line, because I know those are the things that are happening now or before.
Right.
In our family, we're not entrepreneurs. That's a before.
Right.
Then I look over there at the goal, and by the way, your goal always has to be bigger than your current reality, because otherwise you're just going to sit in a sofa and eat chips.
Yeah.
So you've got your nice big goal over here of Disney, and I'm going, but just imagine that I get to say, I teach at Disney. I'm able to do it year after year. I've got these attendees who come into my events and they love it. I'm part of the magic. I always wanted to be. That's big enough for me to start moving. And it's big enough for me to keep moving along going, I can do it. I've always wanted to do it. If I've always wanted to do it, this is part of my emotional DNA. It's anchored over there.
Right.
My dad taught me about magic when I was a kid. Look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm going for the magic. And that juice is enough for me to keep moving and moving and moving. And it's so exciting. It's a stretch, not a break.
Yeah.
It's a big stretch.
Right.
I mean, for that, I sweated buckets, but it was worth it enough that it pulled me past all of these ones behind the line.
But don't you have to like cut off that doubt list that you kind of just listed off for us? Don't you have to like rationalize yourself to get away from that? Like, I'm not good with money, or
I'm not good with money. Is that true now? No. I'm never going to get to Disney. Yes, I am. I'm already on the way there. So absolutely, you've got to look at those and go, you belong here, behind the line, before the goal.
right.
That's your place. You don't belong there, where the goal is and where my yes is. So the no is behind the line.
Yeah.
And that's your perfect place. And thank you, because you sparked me enough to want something different. And my yes is over here. And yes, you've got to keep talking to yourself, because those pesky little things are multi-generational and pre the goal little saints. And they're going to try and bug you and pull you back
Right.
into a systemic trance, because that feels more familiar.
Sometimes it feels like a gravitational pull.
It is a touch. Yes. Yes.
It just pulls you back to that aura of negativity, of doubt, of insecurity. It just keeps
Why?
on pulling you back.
Why?
And so that's what we have to figure out, right?
Oh, no, I can tell you why. Because if you go back to that, you belong. Back with all the others. You're back in what we call good conscience. So it's like, this is good. This is familiar. You know what? Who was going to do that anyway? It was a nice idea. We're big dreamers, blah, 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 blah. And back we go.
Right.
That's why.
Let me paint the picture from a different angle now. So let's assume we've got a successful entrepreneur, business owner, C-suite individual. They're doing well. They want to show to the next generation how things can still be an opportunity for them.
Right.
So take me for an example. I've got 3 kids. I'm a business owner. We've done very well in our businesses. That could put a little bit of pressure on them. Mm-hmm. I got to be better or same as dad. They might be feeling like, oh, I don't have to work as hard. I'm good. My dad will take care of me. You know, the kind of entitled. Thank you. There's many different feelings. Now, I want them to take on some of the good traits that their forefathers and foremothers have done.
Right.
How do you take the menu, the entire menu of the good stuff, and use that as a jumping off point, a propeller, so you can take out to the next level? Because we've talked about the bad stuff, the trauma.
Sure.
But what about the good stuff?
Oh, the good stuff is awesome. So all you have to do with your 3 is say to them, let me tell you a story about my mom and dad and what they did. Because the entrepreneur is strong in our blood. We are entrepreneurs. We are people who know this, this, and this. And you start to seed all of the things that you would like for them. Because what's going to happen is they will take a lot of that. Some they won't, but a lot of that is going to land. And the more that you make it juicy and fun, the more you tie it to good goals and good lifestyle and what you can do, the more that becomes, oh, that's who we are. You know, in our family, that's what we do. The Karmalis in our family are all entrepreneurs. We all take the next step. We all give our sons and our daughters knowledge, and our sons and our daughters are really good stewards. You plant that seed long enough, your kids are going to go, that's me.
There you go. Now, you talked about going to Disney. You're going to Disney this year in the fall.
I am.
What's going to be at that event? Because I want people to sign up and have the opportunity to reach out, get a chance to go to Disney in Orlando for sure, but really get to see what they're going to learn from you and all that work that you've been putting together.
Perfect. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching breakthrough DNA. In other words, you've had all the reasons and all the bad things and all the traumas and all the blah blahs that have kept you stuck. Now we're going to take you to breakthrough DNA, which is you're writing the next chapter. You're writing it really, really well and deeply. You're programming it consciously for yourself, and you're taking yourself to the next level. And what we do with that is we do what I call, do you know constellations? Are you familiar with constellations at all?
For our audience who doesn't know, kind of quickly go through that.
Okay, so for the audience who doesn't know, what I do is you come to me with whatever it is that we're going to work on, and we set it out for you in 3D. We take all of the parts of the puzzle and we represent those for you. So you set it up as, this is the way it looks for me. Now, when you set it up that way, we start to ask questions, and slowly those pieces begin to move and shift until you've got the next step. So it's not just what you inherited, it's and then what? I operate a lot in and then what? So we look at what is and then what? And you get to do that in 3D. So it's verbal, it's visual, it's auditory, it's kinesthetic. And what happens with that is you're engaging multiple senses and you have an embodied experience of what's going on. And that wires in very, very quickly. You don't have to take 20 years on a couch wondering what the next step is.
Judy, what are the dates in the fall that you're going to be having this in Orlando?
This is October the 9th through the 12th, which is a beautiful time in Orlando. It really is. And we do it in Orlando for a very specific reason. Well, a couple. Number one, I'm a Disney person, as I said. And I made a promise when Disney died that if nobody else was going to bring the magic, I was going to make sure that it was going to be there. So that's another one. But the biggest one is it's slightly more expensive than most people attend. And the reason for that is I'm wanting them to stretch. If you're coming to learn to change and you're coming to learn to up your level, that means you've got to stretch. And it begins right at the beginning. You sign up, you're in, you're stretching.
Stretch for your goals, stretch for the magic, all available in Disney with Judy. Judy, I want to thank you for joining us on the Karmali Exchange.
It was such fun to be with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Karmali Exchange. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can also follow me on social media at Faisal Karmali, where we can continue the business conversation.